Hello and welcome back to the Weighty Native Chronicles. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to share a little story with you on something that happened with this rifle. I think a lot of you who are regular viewers of this channel have seen this rifle in the past on this channel. It's quite an unusual one, very valuable in the sense of the custom work done to it. It's chambered in 45-120. And you know, custom stock, engraving, all that kind of stuff. It's just, and I use it for hunting. But so this would be a real shame to damage or ruin a rifle like this. And perhaps you all have your own family heirlooms or special rifles, and it would be a shame to see them damaged, right? But you know, the more you use things, the more likely it is that you might encounter a little bump in the road somewhere along the way, and I use this rifle quite a bit. So, well, folks, I had a little bump in the road, and that bump in the road pretty much convinced me that I was going to end up having to severely damage this rifle in order to fix it. Because as you can see, it's got, you know, it's got the custom wood on it, and the recoil pad here just fits perfectly. It has a red pad, which I don't think you can even find these recoil pads anymore, but they're beautiful. He used to always put them on Ruger number ones. So let me tell you what happened here. Basically, as the title of this video suggests, this rifle was saved by a borescope. I got a little borescope in here. I'll take out in a second. See, I went to the range to do some, I'm developing a new load for this rifle. So I was going to do some initial load testing on this new bullet that I got. And I get down to the range and set the rifle up, take my first shots. And as I did, I noticed something in the stock here, something wiggled a little bit. And when I took a closer look, I could see the whole buttstock here was wiggling, not firmly attached to the receiver. You know, I paused for a second. I really was eager to do that testing, but you know, with the recoil that this rifle delivers and the value of the stock and things like that, no, you know, not even going to take a chance. Like, that is an excellent way to destroy a stock like this, to split it or something like that. So packed up the rifle, put it in its case, and I took it home because I know exactly how to fix this. I've taken the stock off this rifle before, and the way this stock is attached, you have to take the recoil pad off, and then there's a big hole drilled, and there's a long bolt. It starts about here, and it goes all the way up to the back of the receiver, and you just got to tighten that bolt in. Now, last time I did it, put it back together, I probably didn't use blue Loctite, and I should have, because it did, after, that was years ago that I did it, but it did come loose. So, you know, Loctite, stuff like this, because that could ruin the gun if that comes loose. So anyways, I knew how to fix this, right? I've actually taken this recoil pad off and the stock. I've taken everything apart on this gun before, so I'm quite familiar with it. And got home, and you know, this is going to be easy peasy, right? You just take that, you take the recoil pad off, and you're good to go. It's a 7/16 inch socket, by the way. You just put on the end of a extension in the ratchet, and you can just tighten her back up, eh? So I remember when I took this recoil pad off, I remember it very clearly. But there was one thing that I didn't remember that's key to this story. I remember I have the screwdriver sitting on a table over there, a Phillips screwdriver, the exact one that I used when I took this recoil pad off, the last time I had this buttstock off. And so I took out that screwdriver again, and know it fits, and went to remove it. But when I did, I couldn't get a grip on the heads of the wood screws. Now, granted, this is very hard walnut, this wood. So, your wood screws they might be pretty tight in it, but doggone, these must have been in there really, really tight, because there's no way I was going to get those things off. And I tried, and I tried. I used different Phillips heads bits, and I tried some more. And finally, after about an hour of fiddling around, I don't want to damage anything. Like if you see this recoil pad, it's just a sort of a prick hole through the recoil pad. You have it the same on your rifles too, I'm sure. So you can't really see in there. You just kind of push your screwdriver bit into the hole, and you kind of feel until you lock into the head of the screw, and then you engage it and take it out. So you're working in the dark basically, right? But it's not like the hardest thing to do in the world. I mean, you definitely though don't want to use a wrong bit and strip that bolt. I mean, that screw. That's the worst thing you can do, especially with a rifle like this. So this is one of the reasons why, if you don't know what you're doing, you really, if it's a valuable rifle, you should take it to a gunsmith, right? But I've just got to do stuff myself, and I'm not a gunsmith. Yeah, and I've been okay to this point after 40 years of putzing around. So I expected this to go very quickly, and now I'm starting to feel that panic building up. Like, what? If I can't get these screws out, what am I going to do? Like, am I maybe not lining up with it right with the screwdriver, or is it feels like the head is stripped, because I can kind of feel a little bit of torque, and then it just slips right away. And not only on the one screw, but on the other one too. So neither of them I could get a grip on. And I actually asked some questions around on some gunsmithing groups, and I got a whole lot of suggestions on how to maybe deal with it, including putting a little bit of oil, letting it soak in overnight and stuff like that, get that screw to loosen up. Lots of suggestions, and but none of them really seemed to do it for me. And it was looking to me like the rifle is unusable now because the stock is loose, and I have to tighten it on. And I cannot get, like some people were telling me, well, you might have to drill the head off that screw, the screws there, in order to get them out. And I'm thinking, man, I'm gonna tear up this recoil pad. This rifle is gonna be forever damaged. And if I have to replace this recoil pad to get this kind of fit on it, and again, I don't know if that's ever gonna happen. So I'm looking at the destruction or great devaluation of a beautiful rifle. If you don't mind my saying myself, it's a real treasure. So what do you do when you get in a situation like that? You put the rifle down. Don't go crazy. Don't be rash. I mean, if things are going hard, quite often there's a reason, and it's quite often there's a simple reason. So I waited around, and it was on my mind all day, and my grandnephew came by, and he's an avid shooter as well, and reloader. And I says, come on downstairs with me, let's take a look at this thing. Tell me what you think. And so we basically both went through the same paces again that I had gone through. And it was just nice to have somebody else's. Two heads work better than one. Okay? So we racked our brains and thought about stuff, and at one point then finally he said, why don't you use your borescope? Maybe we should give that a try. And I thought, I had never thought about that up until that point. Nobody had suggested that to me either. But I have this borescope. And I'll tell you, this is a really good borescope. Actually, this is it's an Endo Snake brand. I'm really pleased with it. By the way, I'm not getting paid by them to say that. But this little borescope here, all I have to do is just plug this into my smartphone. The light comes on, and it's It's a really small one, like you can fit it through a 22 caliber bore. So really small, and once you plug it into the phone, the light comes on a very bright light, and you can put it wherever you want to put it. It'll fit in just about anywhere. So that was the key moment. Once he said, "Don't you have a borescope?" I thought you did. I said, "Doggone it. That's exactly it. That's what we got to do," because I then hooked it up to my phone, and I took, even though these holes are very squishy, you got to push your screwdriver to get through it, the borescope fit in there just fine, and I could push it in there. And guess what I found, folks? Remember I was saying I remember very clearly that I used a Phillips screwdriver to take these screws out. Very clearly. But what I forgot was that I was worried back then about the same thing that concerned me even now. I was always thinking, I really don't like to take the recoil pads off, because what if that screw ever stripped? That would be just terrible. And now I was actually in that situation again, thinking, this is terrible. I can't get the screws out. So the thing that I forgot was to prevent that ever from happening. I guess I kind of outsmarted myself, but to prevent that ever from happening, I didn't put those Phillips screws back in, because I just don't like the idea. Phillips screws, they can strip too easy, especially when you're working in the dark. I dug around in my little bolt and screw drawer, and I guess back then I selected 2 wood screws, exactly the same type, except they were big Robertson heads on them. So that's what happened. I had Robertson head screws in the butt plate. Just for those of you who don't know, that's the ones with the square hole, like used with big wood screws and stuff. And the way that I found that out was when I looked in with the borescope. We were both just shocked looking at the monitor on the phone as we did that. It says, "That's a big square hole in there." And then, the lights slowly started coming on. Doggone it. I didn't put the original screws back in the butt plate. I replaced them already with Robertson screws, which would have been something that I would have done now too if I hadn't done it already, to be quite frank. But I forgot. And another thing I forgot to add it as a note to I keep meticulous records on everything I do with my guns, and a history on this rifle, everything. The one thing I didn't put in there was a note in big bold letters. Robertson head screws put into the recoil pad instead of the originals. If I had done that, that would have prevented this too. But fortunately, it slowed down, taking my time until we had a revelation. Thanks very much to the help of my grandnephew Grant. And once that borescope went in there, you could see clearly. It doesn't matter how dark it is, because it's got its own light, and you can see it's Robertson head screw in there. So I got the Robertson head screwdriver. We unscrewed both of those screws like nothing. Took off the recoil plate, put a 7/16 socket on an extension with a ratchet, shoved it up there, tunk, tunk, tunk. Actually, I took it out first and put blue Loctite on the threads, slapped that thing together like nothing. And for quite a while there that day, I was truly convinced that in order to do this myself at least, I was going to have to really damage this rifle, unfortunately, and it was just killing me, thinking that I'd have to do it. Or bring it to a gunsmith. And really, frankly, folks, I don't know where you live. I'm in Alberta. Good luck finding a gunsmith. If you're good at that kind of stuff, you're working in the oil patch. There are no gunsmiths around hardly. And if you do, and the ones that are, you can wait 6 months or whatever before they're going to do any work for you. So, you know, this gun would have been unshootable for a very long period of time if I'd gone that route too. And I probably would have been inclined to do it myself. It's an unfortunate fact nowadays with a shortage of gunsmiths. So, I want to share that with you. Is this going to happen to you or anyone else? Probably not. But it just kind of shows how sometimes you have to slow down a little bit and not be too rash, because it can make a huge difference. And this is not the first time I've had this type of thing too, where I had an insoluble purine problem and then later on realized there was an actual simple fix to it. So slow down, folks, think about it, ask other people, have them come over, get two heads together, and yeah, get a borescope, they're really handy. So from the Weighted Native Chronicles, I hope you enjoyed this. I didn't bore you too much, but I just had to share it. So catch you next time. Did you like this video? If you did, I think you're gonna like this one right over here. So check it out. And I appreciate your subscribing if you haven't done so already. Remember to do that while you're watching this next video. Click like, it all helps us out for this channel. Catch you next time.